My parents gave my sister a car for her 16th birthday. A brand new Honda. For mine, they gave me a bus pass. It builds character, my mom said. Grandma overheard, said nothing. On my 18th birthday, a towing company pulled into our driveway. The driver looked me. Are you Audrey? He handed me keys and pointed to what was on the back of the truck. Mom dropped her coffee. My mom recording the whole thing for Facebook. For mine, they gave me a bus pass. It builds character, Mom said. She didn't even look up from her coffee. My grandmother was there that day, sitting on the porch, watching Paige scream over the Honda, watching me stand at the edge of the lawn with a paper plate. She overheard, said nothing. For 2 years, she said nothing. Then, on my 18th birthday, a towing company pulled into our driveway. The driver looked at me. Are you Audrey Forsyth? I said yes. He handed me keys and pointed to what was on the back of the truck. My mother dropped her coffee cup. I'm Audrey. I'm 18. The Honda wasn't the first time my parents picked Paige over me. It was just the first time someone was watching. We live in Ridgemont, Ohio, the kind of town where everyone knows which family drives what and whose kid made varsity. Our house is a 3-bedroom on Maple Hill. White siding, decent yard. Normal from the outside. Inside, the math never added up. Paige's bedroom got repainted every 2 years. Lavender, then sage. Then this blush pink she picked from a Pinterest board. New curtains to match. A desk from Pottery Barn Teen. My room still had the same sky blue walls from when I was 12. The same particle board bookshelf Dad assembled wrong so it leans a little to the left. I didn't keep score at first. Kids don't. You assume your parents have reasons, but the reasons kept piling up. Paige got a new iPhone every fall because she needed it for the cheerleading group chat. I used Mom's old one with the cracked screen and a battery that died by 2 p.m. Paige got new cleats for every season. I wore the same sneakers until the sole peeled. You've always been more low maintenance, Audrey, Mom would say, like it was a compliment. Like wanting less was something I chose and not something I learned. The week before junior year, I found a receipt in the kitchen trash. $800 for Paige's new cheerleading uniform, warm-ups and travel bag. That same week, I asked Mom for $60 for an AP biology textbook the school didn't cover. She pulled a face. Budget's tight this month, hun. Can you find it used online? I found it used online. $18 shipping included. Cover bent at the corner. I highlighted every page of that book and got a 5 on the AP exam. Paige wore the warm-ups once and left them in her locker for 3 months. I need to go back to the birthday, my 16th, because that's where the cracks started. The one nobody noticed except my grandmother. September 14th, a Tuesday. No party, no guests. I came downstairs and there was an envelope on the kitchen counter, leaning against the fruit bowl, not even propped up nice, just tossed there between the bananas and a stack of coupons. Inside, a Metro Valley 30-day bus pass, and a card that said, "Happy Birthday" in gold foil. Mom was pouring coffee. "This is practical," she said without looking up. "You'll thank us later." Dad was already out the door for a job. He'd signed the card, but the handwriting was Mom's. I said thank you. I smiled. I took the envelope upstairs and sat on my bed for a long time, turning the bus pass over in my hands. It had a magnetic strip and a little logo of a cartoon bus that looked like it was drawn for a second grader. That night, after everyone was asleep, I cried in the bathroom with the faucet running so no one could hear. Not because of the bus pass, because of the way Mom handed it to me, like it was obvious. Like of course this was enough for me, like I wasn't the kind of daughter you throw a party for. The next morning, I was at the Route 7 stop at 5:04:05. It was still dark. September in Ohio. The air already had an edge. A man in a hard hat nodded at me. I nodded back. That was my welcome committee. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself that a lot over the next 2 years. And 2 years later, Paige's birthday arrived. And my grandmother saw everything from the porch. March 18th, a Saturday. Paige's 16th, 25 people in our backyard. Streamers. A 3-tier cake from the bakery on Main Street. Not grocery store. The real bakery. With fondant and little sugar flowers. String lights Dad hung the night before. And in the driveway, under a red bow the size of a beach ball, a white Honda Civic. Brand new. The dealer plates were still on it. Paige screamed so loud the Whitfield's dog started barking 2 houses down. She ran to the car, ran back, hugged Mom, hugged Dad, ran to the car again. Mom had her phone out before Paige even touched the door handle. Video rolling. The Facebook post went up within the hour. Our baby girl deserves the world. Happy sweet 16. Paige. 47 likes by dinner time. I stood near the cooler holding a plate of cake I wasn't eating. I clapped when everyone else clapped. I told Paige it was a beautiful car, and I meant it. It was. I just didn't understand why beautiful things always pointed in her direction. No one asked me how I felt. No one looked at me long enough to wonder. Except Grandma Ruth. She was sitting on the porch in the wicker chair she always claimed. Coffee in her left hand, right hand resting on the armrest. She watched the Honda. She watched Paige squeal. She watched Mom preen. Then she looked at me, standing at the edge with my paper plate, and something in her face tightened, just slightly, like a decision being made behind closed eyes. Mrs. Whitfield from next door leaned over and whispered, "Didn't Audrey just get a bus pass for hers?" Grandma set her coffee down. She did. 2 words. But they held 2 years of planning I didn't know about yet. The next 2 years were mine. Not because anyone gave them to me, because I built them from nothing. I got hired at Millstone Coffee 3 weeks after Paige's birthday party. 5:30 a.m., shifts Tuesday through Saturday before school. The owner, Mr. Delaney, was ex-military and didn't believe in small talk. He taught me to pull espresso shots, restock inventory, and close a register to the penny. By month 2, he trusted me to open a loan. I saved everything. Tips in a mason jar. Paychecks into a savings account. Grandma Ruth helped me set up. 2 years. No car. No big purchases. I put away $3,200. Every dollar earned standing behind a counter while my sister slept until 7:30 and drove to school in her Honda. My GPA held at 308. I applied for 4 scholarships and got 2. I took the bus to every college interview, every volunteer shift, every AP study session at the public library. Once, just once, I asked Mom if I could borrow the family van to drive to an internship interview 40 minutes north. She barely looked up from her phone. Paige needs it for practice. I took the bus. It made me 10 minutes late. The interviewer, a woman named Ms. Garner, noticed. I told her the truth. I took public transit because I didn't have a car. She paused, then nodded. I got the spot anyway. Every month, I drove, bussed, to Grandma Ruth's house. We'd sit on her porch with tea and say almost nothing important. She never asked about the car. She never asked about Mom. She asked about my job, my grades, my plans. The last visit before my birthday, she looked at me over her cup and asked one question I didn't expect. "Audrey, do you have your driver's license?" I said yes. She nodded. Good. So here I am, 17, $3,000 saved from pouring lattes at 5 in the morning, riding the 5:45 bus while my sister parks her Honda in the school lot every day. And my grandmother just asked me if I have my license. I don't know what she's planning, but I know that look, the one where her mouth stays still, but her eyes are already 3 moves ahead. If you've ever had someone in your family who sees you, really sees you, when nobody else does, because what Grandma Ruth does next, I still can't believe it happened in our driveway. 3 months before my 18th birthday, the acceptance letter came. Westfield College, small liberal arts school, strong accounting program, 40 minutes from Ridgemont by car. No public bus route. I read that last part 3 times. No public bus route. I sat down with Mom and Dad on a Sunday evening. I had a plan. Numbers written out on index cards like I was presenting to a bank. I've saved $3,200. I used Corolla runs around 4,000 to 5,000. If you could help with the difference. Dad leaned forward. He was listening. Mom cut in before he could speak. We can't afford that right now, Audrey. I'm not asking for the whole thing. Just the gap. Budget's tight with Paige's. Cheer nationals coming up. I have most of it already. I just need You've been doing fine with the bus. There's no bus to Westfield. She paused. Just barely. Then figure it out. That's what adults do. That night, I was brushing my teeth when I saw it. The family iPad was on the bathroom counter, still unlocked. The browser was open to a car leasing website, a comparison page for 2 sedans, both newer than Paige's Honda. The search history showed Mom had been browsing for 20 minutes, not for me, for Paige, for when Paige would eventually need an upgrade for college. I set the iPad down and stared at myself in the mirror. My toothbrush was still in my mouth, foam on my lips. I looked ridiculous. I felt worse. There's a moment when you stop being surprised by how your parents treat you and start being surprised that you're still hoping for something different. That night was the moment. I rinsed, spit, turned out the light. The bus pass didn't build character. It built walls. The internship letter arrived on a Wednesday. Wallace and Pratt, a small accounting firm 35 minutes from Ridgemont, summer position. Paid. The kind of line on a resume that opens doors for a kid from a town where most doors stay shut. One problem: no bus, no carpool, no way to get there without a vehicle. I did the math on a napkin during my break at Millstone, Uber, round trip, 5 days a week for 10 weeks, roughly $1,800, more than half my savings, money I needed for textbooks, dorm supplies, first semester fees. It would gut everything I'd built. I tried one more time. Sunday dinner, meatloaf. I waited until everyone was calm. The internship starts June 5th. It's 35 minutes by car. If I could use the van 3 days a week, Dad started nodding. I could see it. He was about to say, yes. If we buy you a car, Mom said, Paige will think it's unfair. The table went quiet. Even Paige looked up from her phone. I wanted to say, Paige already has a car. Paige has had a car for 6 months. Paige drives to the mall on Tuesdays for smoothies. How is this unfair to Paige? But I'd learned a long time ago that logic doesn't work in a house where the rules only apply to one daughter. I left the table. I washed my dishes. I went to my room and picked up my phone. I didn't call Grandma Ruth to ask for money. I called because she was the only person who never made me feel like I was asking for too much. I told her about the internship, about the math, about the van. She listened, didn't interrupt once. Then she was quiet for a long time. Your birthday is in 6 weeks, she said. Just hold on. After that phone call, Grandma Ruth started behaving differently. Small things at first. She called me midweek, unusual, because Grandma was a Sunday phone call kind of woman. Quick question, honey. Do you like SUVs or sedans? I laughed. Why? You buying a car? Just curious, humor, an old woman. SUV, I guess. Easier for moving stuff to college. A week later, another call. You said you have your license. You passed the road test and everything? Grandma, you asked me this already. I'm 71. I'm allowed to ask twice. I let it go. Grandma Ruth had always been a little eccentric. She kept a leather notebook from her real estate days and wrote everything down like the world might quiz her later. I figured she was just cataloging information the way she always did. But then I went to visit her on a Saturday, and something felt off. I walked up the porch steps and heard her on the phone through the screen door. She was talking to Uncle Glenn, her younger son, Mom's brother, and the only words I caught before she saw me were, "Paperwork's almost done, Wednesday delivery." She hung up fast, smiled at me. "Glenn's helping a friend with a truck situation. Come in, tea's ready." I didn't push. Grandma had a rule. Never ask about a gift before your birthday. She'd said it since I was 5. So I drank my tea, helped her weed the garden, and drove home on the bus, pretending I hadn't noticed the sheet of paper on her dining table with a Toyota dealership logo across the top, half covered by a library book she'd clearly placed there in a hurry. 6 weeks felt like 6 months. But my birthday finally came, and nothing could have prepared me for what pulled into our driveway that evening, 3 weeks before my birthday. Tuesday dinner, chicken and rice. I decided to try one more time, not because I thought it would work, but because I needed the record to be clean. I needed to know I'd asked. I found a used Corolla online, 4,000 even, Mom didn't look up from her plate. We can't afford that. I have 3,000 saved. Now she looked up. Then you only need another 1,000. That's what I'm asking for. Ask when we're not paying for pages, regionals. Page chewing. It's regionals, Mom, not nationals. Whatever it is, it's expensive. Audrey, you know how this works. Dad said nothing. Fork, plate, mouth, fork, plate, mouth. A man made of routine and avoidance. Do I? I said, because I'm not sure I do anymore. Mom's eyes narrowed. Meaning what? I held her gaze for exactly 2 seconds. Then I stood up, cleared my plate, and walked to the sink. No slam, no tears. Just the quiet sound of water running over ceramic. Paige followed me into the kitchen a minute later. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed, looking uncomfortable, which for Paige was rare. Discomfort was usually something that happened to other people. Sorry about that, she said. But the bus isn't that bad, right? I turned off the faucet, dried my hands on the dish towel, looked at her. Have you ever ridden it? She blinked. What? The bus. Have you ever ridden the Route 7? She opened her mouth, closed it. No. Yeah, I said. I know. I hung up the towel and went upstairs. Behind me, I heard Paige open the fridge, close it, and walk away. She didn't follow me. She didn't know how to. I found out what Mom was telling people by accident. A week after the dinner fight, I came home early from Millstone. Mr. Delaney let me go at noon because the espresso machine was down. I walked in through the garage, quiet because I'd taken my shoes off at the door the way Mom liked, and I heard her voice drifting from the living room. Phone call, speaker off. But she was loud enough that the walls didn't matter. Audrey's never been materialistic. She actually prefers the bus. She likes the independence. I stopped in the hallway, my socks on the hardwood floor, my hand on the wall. Not every kid needs a car, Brenda. She's different from Paige. Different. She said it like a diagnosis. Like something settled and permanent. Like I was a species that didn't require what normal daughters required. I know. But honestly, it's fine. Audrey doesn't make a big deal out of things. She never has. I stood there for what felt like 5 minutes, but was probably 30 seconds. My nails dug into my palm hard enough to leave little crescent moons. Not from anger. From the effort of staying quiet when every nerve in my body wanted to walk in and say, I never said I preferred the bus. I never said I liked it. I said thank you, because that's what you taught me to say when someone hands you less than you deserve. But I didn't walk in. I went upstairs, sat on my bed, and picked up my phone. 3 words to Grandma Ruth. She's lying. The reply came in under a minute. 1 word, I know. 2 texts. 10 characters total. And somehow, for the first time in weeks, I felt like the ground under me was solid. Dad found me in the garage that Saturday. I was helping him sort pipe fittings. He's a freelance plumber. Always has a job half finished in some corner of the house. We worked in silence for a while. That was normal. Dad and I communicated best when our hands were busy and our mouths weren't. Then he said it, low, almost under his breath, like the words had been circling for weeks, and finally slipped out. I know it's not fair, kiddo. The car thing. I stopped sorting, looked at him. He was holding a brass elbow joint, turning it in his fingers, not meeting my eyes. So help me, I said. He exhaled. I'll talk to your mom. Something in my chest unlocked. Just a small thing. A latch I hadn't realized I'd been holding shut. Dad knew, and he was going to do something about it. That night, lying in bed, I heard them through the wall. Not yelling. My parents didn't yell. They did something worse. They had conversations where Mom's voice went flat and steady, and Dad's got quieter and quieter, until it disappeared entirely. Don't start this again, Keith. She's fine. She's always been fine. Silence. I'm not going to fight about this. More silence. Good. The next morning, Dad was at the kitchen table before me. He looked up when I came in. His eyes said everything his mouth wouldn't. I tried. I'm sorry. I'm not strong enough. He didn't mention the car. He didn't mention anything. He poured me coffee, the first time he'd ever done that, and went back to his newspaper. I understood something then that took the anger out of me and replaced it with something heavier. My father wasn't cruel. He was just a coward in a house where cowardice was easy. The deadline to confirm my internship was 14 days out. I had to submit proof of reliable transportation, not optional, not flexible. Wallace and Pratt was a 35-minute drive through county roads with no sidewalks and no bus stops. They'd had an intern bike at once. She quit after a week. I sat at my desk with the laptop open. The confirmation form glowed on the screen. At the bottom, a drop-down menu, mode of transportation to office. The options were personal vehicle, carpool, and other, please specify. There was no option for, my family has 2 cars, and neither one is available to me. I hovered over decline offer, my savings, $3,200, an Uber budget for 10 weeks, $1,800 minimum. That left $1,400 for an entire freshman year of textbooks, supplies, and whatever else came up. It wasn't enough. Declining was the smart move, the safe move, the Audrey move. My thumb was on the trackpad when my phone buzzed. Grandma Ruth. Not a text, a call. She never called on Wednesdays. Don't decline anything, she said. No hello, no how are you, just that. Grandma, 2 more weeks. Audrey, I need you to trust me for 2 more weeks. I don't understand what you don't need to understand. You need to not click that button. I stared at the screen. The cursor blinked over decline offer like a heartbeat. Okay, I said. 2 weeks. Good girl. Now go study for something. She hung up. No explanation, no hints. Just a 71-year-old woman telling me to hold the line with the kind of certainty that doesn't come from hoping. It comes from having already made the arrangements. I closed the laptop. I didn't decline. I didn't understand why, but I held on. The next time I visited Grandma Ruth, she was in a strange mood. Not bad, just focused. Like she was running numbers behind her eyes while pouring tea. We sat on the porch. The afternoon light came through the maple tree in her yard and made patterns on the floorboards. She had her leather notebook open on the side table, the one from her real estate days, cracked spine, rubber band holding it shut most of the time. Today it was open. I couldn't read what was on the page, but I could see columns, figures, dates circled in red pen. Audrey, she said, stirring her tea with a small spoon. Do you know what turning 18 means legally? I shrugged. I can vote? She almost smiled. You can own property. Put a title in your name. Sign contracts. And once something is in your name, registered, titled, documented, no one can take it from you. Not your mother, not your father, nobody. I looked at her. That's a pretty intense thing to say over chamomile. I'm an intense woman. She closed the notebook and set her teacup down with a little clink. The conversation moved on. She asked about my AP scores, about whether Millstone was giving me enough hours, about what I was reading. Normal grandmother things. But on the drive home, bus home technically, I kept turning that phrase over. No one can take it from you. Why would she say that? What would anyone want to take from me? I had a cracked screen phone, a leaning bookshelf, and $3,200 in a savings account. I didn't understand then. I wouldn't understand for another 3 weeks. But Grandma Ruth had been in real estate for 30 years, and she knew one thing better than anyone. Timing is everything, and paperwork is permanent. Uncle Glenn showed up at Grandma Ruth's the following Saturday while I was there. He walked in through the back door like he owned the place, which, knowing Glenn, was just how he entered every room. Big guy, thick forearms, ran a small auto body shop on Route 12. He was Mom's younger brother, but they were nothing alike. Glenn laughed loud, talked straight, and never pretended things were fine when they weren't. He stopped when he saw me at the kitchen table. Oh, hey, Audrey. He looked at Ruth. Ruth looked at him. Something passed between them that I wasn't invited to. It's ready, Glenn said to her. Dealer confirmed. Wednesday delivery. Ruth's face didn't change. Glenn's helping a friend move a truck, she said to me. Smooth. Practiced, like she'd rehearsed the sentence. Glenn nodded. Yep. Truck stuff. Boring. He was a terrible liar. His ears turned pink, and he suddenly became very interested in the fruit bowl on the counter. But I let it go. Grandma's rule. Never ask about a gift before your birthday. Glenn left 10 minutes later, hugged me on the way out, tighter than usual, which was strange, and pointed at me. Big birthday coming up, kid. 18. The real one. He said it like it meant something beyond cake and candles. After he was gone, I stood up to refill my tea and saw it. On the dining table, half covered by a library copy of a murder mystery. A printed page with the Toyota logo in the top corner. Bold text, a VIN number, a price figure that I only caught 3 digits of before Ruth swept the book over it completely. You reading mysteries now, Grandma? Always have been, she said, and smiled in a way that told me absolutely nothing and everything at once. 1 week before my 18th birthday, I came downstairs on a Monday morning, and the kitchen looked exactly the way it always looked. No lists on the fridge, no party supply bags on the counter, no group text popping off on Mom's phone about decorations or guest lists. I thought about Paige's 16th. Mom had started planning 3 weeks out. She'd made a shared Google Doc with Dad, a Google Doc for a birthday party, with a seating chart, a catering list, and a column labeled Photo Ops. She'd ordered custom napkins. For my birthday, there was nothing. No doc, no napkins, no mention. On Wednesday, I tested the water. Are we doing anything for my birthday? Mom was unloading the dishwasher. She paused, just long enough to signal she'd forgotten, and was now performing remembering. Of course, we'll do dinner, family dinner, Saturday night, family dinner. Translation. Whatever Mom felt like cooking, a grocery store cake from the Kroger bakery, and a card with $50 that Dad would sign in the car on the way home from a job. Sounds great, I said, because what else was there to say? I went upstairs, sat on my bed, looked at the ceiling. The cracks up there had been the same since I was 14. A little web spreading from the corner where the roof leaked one winter, and nobody fixed it. Paige's ceiling had been replastered last spring. I didn't cry. I'd graduated from crying about birthdays somewhere around 17. I just lay there and breathed, and thought about the Route 7 bus, and Grandma's notebook, and Uncle Glenn's pink ears, and the Toyota logo half hidden under a murder mystery. I didn't know what was coming, but I knew Grandma Ruth wasn't planning nothing, and that was more than anyone else in this house had ever given me. September 14th, my 18th birthday. I woke up at 6 to 12, body clock from 2 years of millstone shifts. No alarm needed, no alarm set. The house was quiet. Paige's door was closed. I could hear the shower running, Dad getting ready for a Saturday call-out. A pipe burst in some development on the east side. I went downstairs. The kitchen smelled like coffee, and nothing else. No pancakes, no special anything. Just Tuesday morning energy on the most important birthday of my life. Dad came through in his work boots. Happy birthday, kiddo. He handed me an envelope. White, no decoration. Inside, a card with a stock photo of balloons and a $50 bill. Thanks, Dad. He squeezed my shoulder. Dinner tonight. Your mom's got it covered. Then he was out the door, truck rumbling down the driveway before I'd finished reading the card. His handwriting this time, at least. Proud of you, Aud. Dad. 5 words. The most emotional sentence Keith Forsyth had ever committed to paper. Mom came down 20 minutes later, hair in a clip, robe on, coffee in hand. Happy birthday, sweetheart. Big 18. She said it the way you say Happy Friday to a CO worker, pleasant, forgettable. Already moving on to the next thought. Paige appeared at 9:30, still in pajamas. Happy birthday, sis. She hugged me, quick, one-armed, genuine enough. Then she grabbed her keys off the hook and headed for the driveway. The Honda started. She was gone. I stood in the kitchen, holding a $50 bill, and a card, and a mug of coffee that was already cold. $50. I earned more than that in 2 shifts at Millstone. But the money wasn't the point. It was never about the money. It was about what the money said without saying it. By 5 o'clock, the house smelled like lasagna. Mom's recipe, heavy on the ricotta. Light on the thought that maybe the birthday girl would have preferred something else. I'd never been asked what I wanted for my birthday dinner. Paige always got to choose. Paige always chose steak. The grocery store cake sat on the counter. White frosting, blue script, Happy 18th Audrey. close enough. The doorbell rang at 5015. I opened it, expecting Grandma Ruth. I got Grandma Ruth, Uncle Glenn, Aunt Brenda with her husband Tom, and Mrs. Whitfield from next door. The one who'd made the bus pass comment at Paige's party 2 years ago. Grandma was wearing her good blouse, the emerald one she saved for church and funerals. Her hair was set. "Grandma, you look, it's your 18th, she said, stepping past me. "That's worth looking nice for." Behind me, Mom appeared from the kitchen, dish towel over her shoulder, face cycling through surprise, confusion, and something close to alarm in about 2 seconds flat. "Mother," I said, "family dinner." "This is family," Ruth gestured at Glenn and Brenda, and Mrs. Whitfield brought pie. Mrs. Whitfield held up an apple pie and smiled in a way that suggested she knew exactly what was happening and had shown up on purpose. Mom looked at Dad, who had just walked in from his job, still in work boots. He shrugged. What was he going to do? Turn people away? "I'll get more chairs," he said. Extra plates came out. The dining table was extended with the leaf that hadn't been used since Thanksgiving. Glenn cracked a joke about the lasagna. Brenda complimented the cake. Everything felt normal on the surface, but I watched Grandma Ruth sit down at the head of the table, and I noticed she hadn't brought a gift bag, she hadn't brought a card. She'd brought witnesses. Dinner moved the way dinners do when there are too many people at a table designed for 5. Elbows bumped, serving spoons clinked. Glenn told a story about a customer who tried to pay for bodywork with lottery tickets. Everyone laughed except Mom, who was watching Ruth the way a deer watches headlights. Aunt Brenda, bless her, didn't read the room, or maybe she read it perfectly. "So, Audrey," she wiped her mouth with a napkin. "Big 18, what did you get?" The table went quiet, not dramatically, just enough. The kind of quiet that happens when everyone suddenly becomes very interested in their lasagna. I looked at my plate. "The dinner is my gift." Brenda tilted her head. "That's it." Mom jumped in. "We're keeping it simple this year. Audrey's never been about big gifts, she's very low maintenance. But Paige got a car for her 16th, Brenda said. She wasn't being mean, she was being honest. Which in this family amounted to the same thing. Mom's jaw tightened. That was different. Paige needed it for her activities. And Audrey doesn't have activities? Audrey has a job, and the bus. Grandma Ruth hadn't spoken since the salad course. She sat at the head of the table with her tea. She never drank at dinner, and let the silence work. Paige shifted in her chair. "I mean, Audrey's fine with the bus," she told me. The words hung in the air like a wrong note in a hymn. I set my fork down, looked directly at my sister. "I never said that." 5 words. No anger in them, no volume, just correction. Paige's mouth opened slightly. Mom's hand went to her water glass but didn't pick it up. Dad stared at a fixed point on the wall behind my head. Everyone at that table heard it, and no one could unhear it. Mom recovered fast, she always did. Her specialty was turning accountability into accusation in under 3 seconds. "So now I'm a terrible mother, on your birthday?" "Nobody said that, Diane." Dad's voice, quiet, almost invisible. "You're all sitting here judging me at my own table." "I'm sitting here eating lasagna," Glenn said. "But go on." Mom ignored him. She turned to me, eyes wet in that specific way that meant tears were being assembled for deployment, not actually felt. "I gave you everything you needed, Audrey. A roof, food, school supplies. What more do you want from me?" I didn't flinch. I didn't raise my voice. I'd had 2 years on the Route 7 bus to practice being steady. I wanted to be treated the same. "Life isn't always equal." "No," I said. "It's not. But it should be fair." Something in the room shifted. Brenda set her fork down. Tom looked at his wife. Mrs. Whitfield reached for her pie, like she needed something to hold. Keith was still staring at the wall, but his hand was flat on the table. The posture of a man who knows the next sentence is going to be important and can't decide which side to be on. Grandma Ruth set her teacup in its saucer. The clink was small, but it cut through the room like a bell. "You're right, Diane," she said. "Life isn't equal." Everyone looked at her. She pushed her chair back, stood up, smoothed her emerald blouse with both hands. A gesture I'd seen 1,000 times, the one she made when she was about to close a deal. So let's even it up a little. She walked toward the front door, opened it, looked back at me. Audrey, come outside. It wasn't a question. It was an unveiling, and every person at that table stood up to follow. The porch light was already on. The street lights had just flickered to life. That amber glow that makes everything in Ridgemont look like a movie set at dusk. The air smelled like cut grass in somebody's charcoal grill down the block. And then I heard it. A low diesel rumble from the end of Maple Hill. Headlights. Big ones. The kind that belonged to something with more than 4 tires. The sound grew. Engine and hydraulics in the rattle of a flatbed, and I watched a tow truck turn the corner onto our street, moving slow, deliberate, like it knew where it was going and wasn't in any hurry to get there. It pulled into our driveway. On the flatbed, strapped down and gleaming under the streetlight, sat a Toyota 4Runner, nautical blue, new, so new the temporary tags were still in the window, and the tires hadn't touched asphalt that wasn't a dealership lot. The chrome caught the last of the sunset and threw it back in little gold sparks. The driver climbed out. Young guy, clipboard in hand, steel-toed boots. He looked at the group of people standing on the porch like he'd interrupted a church service. I'm looking for Audrey Forsyth. My voice didn't sound like mine. That's me. He walked over, held out a set of keys, Toyota fob, 2 metal keys on a plain ring, and a small tag tied with twine. He put them in my hand. Happy birthday, he said. She's all yours. He pointed at the 4Runner on the back of the truck. I looked at the keys, looked at the truck, looked at Grandma Ruth. She was standing next to me on the porch. She put her hand on my shoulder, light, steady, the hand of a woman who had waited 2 years for this exact moment, and nodded once. She didn't say a word. She didn't need to. The coffee cup hit the porch first. Mom had followed everyone outside, still holding her mug, the white one with the chipped handle she used every evening. When the tow truck driver said my name, her fingers went slack. The mug dropped. It hit the concrete step and broke into 3 clean pieces. Coffee splashed across the welcome mat and onto her shoes. She didn't bend down. She didn't move. She just stared at the 4Runner like it had fallen out of the sky. Dad was behind her. His reaction was different and stranger. He looked at the truck, looked at Ruth, and then he laughed. Not big, not mean, just a short, quiet sound that came from somewhere deep. The laugh of a man watching someone finally do the thing he'd been too afraid to do himself. Paige came out last. She stood in the doorway with her phone half raised, like she'd been about to take a picture of something else. Her eyes went to the 4Runner. Then to her Honda Civic parked on the left side of the driveway. Back to the 4Runner. The size difference alone told the story. Her Civic looked like it was trying to hide behind the mailbox. She lowered her phone. Didn't say anything. Just swallowed. Aunt Brenda grabbed Glenn's arm. Ruth, you didn't. Her voice was half shock, half delight. The sound of someone who'd been waiting for this shoe to drop without knowing it existed. Mrs. Whitfield, holding her purse with both hands, said it quietly, but clearly. About time. And Uncle Glenn stood behind Grandma Ruth with his arms crossed and a grin so wide it nearly split his face. He'd known, he'd helped, and he'd waited just as patiently as she had. I looked down at the keys in my hand. There was a tag tied with twine, Grandma's handwriting, small, careful letters. You were always worth it. Grandma. It took Mom about 45 seconds to switch from shock to damage control. I'd seen the transition before. The way her spine straightened, her chin lifted, and her voice found that specific register between indignation and authority, the one that usually made everyone in the house fall in line. She stepped forward, broken coffee cup still at her feet. Mother, this is too much. We need to talk about this. Grandma Ruth didn't move. There's nothing to talk about. You can't just buy my daughter a car without consulting me. She's 18. The title is in her name. That stopped Mom mid-sentence. Her mouth was open, but the words stalled somewhere in her throat. Title, name, legal. The language of things that can't be undone with a phone call or a guilt trip. You can't just, Mom tried again. I can, and I did. Ruth's voice was level. No venom, no triumph, just fact. The same way you bought Paige a car without asking me? The porch went quiet. Even the neighbor's dog, which had been barking since the truck arrived, stopped. Mom spun to Dad. Keith, say something. And Keith Forsyth, the man who hadn't said anything meaningful in 2 years of watching his daughter ride the bus, looked at his wife, and then at his mother-in-law, and then at me. She's right, Diane. 3 words. Dad's biggest rebellion in 18 years of marriage. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. But it landed like a gavel. Mom looked around the porch. Brenda, Tom, Glenn, Mrs. Whitfield. Everyone was there. Everyone had heard. And not a single face was on her side. She picked up the broken pieces of her coffee cup, one by one, very carefully. Walked inside. The screen door closed behind her with a soft click that sounded like the end of something. The tow truck driver lowered the 4Runner off the flatbed, with a hydraulic whine that echoed down the whole street. 2 neighbors across the road had come out on their porches to watch. Glenn guided the truck into the open spot on the driveway, right next to Paige's Honda, which suddenly looked like it belonged to a different conversation entirely. When the truck pulled away and the engine noise faded, the driveway was quiet. Just the streetlight buzzing and the click of cooling metal. I hugged Grandma Ruth. Not a quick hug, not a polite one. I put my arms around her and held on, and felt her hand pat my back twice. Firm, steady, the way she did everything. You earned this by being who you are, she said, close to my ear. Don't let anyone tell you different. I pulled back. My eyes were wet, but I wasn't crying. Not really. It was more like my body was leaking feelings that didn't know how to hold anymore. Go sit in it, Glenn said, grinning. That's the rule. First day, you sit in it. I opened the driver's door. The new car smell hit me immediately. That chemical clean scent that means no one has lived in this space yet. The leather seats were cool. The dashboard lights came on blue and white. My hands found the steering wheel and my fingers were shaking. Not from fear, from the weight of being seen after years of being invisible. I looked up through the windshield. The family was still on the porch. Dad was leaning on the railing. Paige stood in the doorway. Glenn was clapping. Brenda was taking a photo. Then I looked at the passenger seat. Another envelope. Ruth's handwriting on the front. Open at home. Inside, I couldn't wait. The vehicle registration completed. 6 months of insurance, prepaid. And a small note. The name and address of Wallace and Pratt. Below it, in Grandma's careful script. Monday, 8 a.m. Don't be late. I'm sitting in a brand new 4Runner with my name on the title, and my grandmother's handwriting is telling me not to be late for the internship I almost gave up. 2 hours ago, I thought my birthday dinner was going to be grocery store cake and Mom's lasagna. And now I'm shaking behind a steering wheel that belongs to me. If your grandmother or anyone in your life ever changed everything with one move they'd been planning in silence, tell me about it in the comments. I read every single one, because I'm still shaking, and the story isn't over yet. The next morning, Mom was waiting in the kitchen. She was sitting at the table with both hands wrapped around a new mug. She'd already replaced the broken one, which told me everything about how she processed loss. And she had the face on, the one that said, I've been up since 5 rehearsing this conversation, and you're going to hear every word. We need to talk about this car, Audrey. I poured my coffee, took my time with the cream, sat down across from her. Okay, your grandmother is overstepping. She's trying to make me look bad in front of the family. She's not making you look anything, Mom. She's just doing what you didn't. Mom flinched. Small, but there. A crack in the performance. That's not fair. You gave Paige a car and me a bus pass. That happened. I'm not angry about it, but I'm done pretending it was equal. I tried my best with what we had. I know you believe that. Her eyes went red, not the manufactured red from the dinner table. Actual red, actual tears forming at the edges. It hit differently than I expected. I didn't enjoy it. So what now? She said, You hate me? No, I love you. But I'm keeping the car, and I'm driving to my internship on Monday, and I'm not going to apologize for Grandma seeing what you didn't want anyone to see. She sat with that. The kitchen clock ticked. The refrigerator hummed. Somewhere outside, a lawnmower started up. Mr. Whitfield, always mowing on Sundays. Mom wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, stood up, put her mug in the sink. I need some time, she said. Take it, I said. I'm not going anywhere. She left the kitchen. I sat there with my coffee and waited for my hands to stop shaking. They didn't for a long time. Dad found me in the garage an hour later. He was sitting on the workbench when I came in, not working on anything, just sitting, hands on his knees, the posture of a man who had something to say and no practice saying it. I should have said something a long time ago. I leaned against the doorframe. Yeah, you should have. I was afraid of. I know what you were afraid of. He looked at me. I looked at him. No hiding and pipe fittings this time. No task to absorb the silence. But Dad, being quiet isn't the same as being neutral. It's picking a side. You picked hers. Every time. He didn't argue. Didn't deflect. Didn't say it's complicated or you don't understand marriage. He just sat there and took it, which was both the bravest and saddest thing I'd seen him do in 18 years. You're right, he said. 2 words. The second time in 2004 hours, he'd said them about me. A new personal record. I'm proud of you, he added. For what that's worth. I let that hang for a second. Weighed it. Decided to be honest. It's worth something, but it would have been worth more 2 years ago. He nodded, swallowed hard. His eyes were dry, but his jaw was working. That thing men of his generation do instead of crying, the muscles flexing, the throat tight, the emotion pushed down into the body so it won't leak out the face. We stood in the garage for a while. Didn't hug, didn't need to. The air between us was different now. Not warm exactly, but cleared. Like after a storm when the pressure drops, and you can finally breathe without your ears popping. Need help checking the tire pressure on that 4Runner? He said finally. Yeah, I said. I do. Paige knocked on my door that night. Soft knock. 2 taps. A pause. Then a third. The knock of someone who isn't sure she's welcome. Come in. She sat on the edge of my bed. She was wearing her cheerleading hoodie and no makeup, which meant she was operating without armor. A rare sight. I didn't know it was that bad, she said. Like, I knew things weren't equal, but I didn't know you were almost giving up your internship. I didn't know about the van. I didn't. She stopped, swallowed. I was at my desk, half turned in the chair. You didn't think about it, because you didn't have to. Yeah. Her voice cracked. That's the worst part. I could have been cruel. I had enough material for a monologue that would have sent her into a spiral. But cruelty was Mom's tool, not mine. And Paige wasn't the villain in this story. She was the byproduct of one. It's not your fault you got a car, I said. It's just that nobody thought to ask why I didn't. She wiped her nose with her sleeve. I ride past the Route 7 stop every morning. I see the people waiting. I never once thought about you standing there. I know. Silence. The kind that isn't empty. It's full of all the things 2 sisters should have said years ago and didn't. Your 4Runner is really nice, by the way. She tried a smile. Small, but real. I matched it. It is, isn't it? She laughed. Short, wet, relieved. Then she said something I didn't expect. Can you teach me how to budget? I spent my whole allowance by Wednesday. I looked at my sister. 16, spoiled, trying, and for the first time in a long time, I saw someone I wanted to know better. Yeah, I said. I can. In a town like Ridgemont, news doesn't travel. It detonates. By Monday, 3 people at Millstone asked me about the 4Runner before I'd finished my opening shift. Mr. Delaney just raised his eyebrows and said, "Nice wheels," which from him was a standing ovation. Mrs. Whitfield told the story at her Tuesday prayer group. I know because 2 women from that group came into the coffee shop the next day and ordered lattes. They clearly didn't need just to look at me like I was a character from a book they were reading. One of them squeezed my hand across the counter. Your grandmother is a good woman, she said. I just nodded. Aunt Brenda posted a photo on Facebook, not of the car, of me standing in the driveway, keys in hand, Grandma Ruth beside me. No caption except a single emoji. A heart. She didn't tag Mom. The post got 62 likes and 14 comments. All some variation of that grandmother is a legend. Mom started getting messages. I know because Paige told me carefully, like she was delivering a weather report on a storm she wasn't sure had passed. People keep asking her why you didn't get a car before. Paige said. She's not answering. At work, Mom. She worked the front desk at Ridgemont Elementary. A CO worker stopped her in the hallway. Your mom bought your daughter a car? That's so sweet. Ruth has always been such a generous woman. Mom had to smile through it. The specific kind of smile that doesn't reach the cheeks. The one you wear when someone compliments the person who just embarrassed you in your own driveway. I didn't post anything, didn't tell anyone. I just drove the 4Runner to work, to the library, to the grocery store. The car was its own announcement. Ridgemont did the rest. I came home late from a trial day at Wallace and Pratt. My internship supervisor wanted me to shadow the bookkeeper for an extra hour, and found Mom sitting at the kitchen table with the lights low, not on her phone, not cooking, just sitting in front of a photo album I hadn't seen since I was a kid. I almost backed out of the room, but she heard my keys. Sit down, she said. Not a command, a request. Her voice had edges that were normally sharp, but tonight they were worn smooth, like river stones. I sat. The album was open to a page from the 80s. 2 girls in a backyard. The older one wore a crisp dress with lace trim. The younger one, smaller, darker hair, sharp eyes, wore a hand-me-down with a stain on the collar. That's your Aunt Carol, Mom said, pointing to the older girl. And that's me. I looked. I could see it. The same jaw, the same way her hair fell. Grandma Ruth didn't play favorites, Mom said. Not on purpose, but Carol was easier, more agreeable, and I was, she paused, difficult, loud. I asked for too much. At least, that's what I told myself. She closed the album. Her hands were flat on the cover, pressing down like she was trying to keep something inside. I didn't realize I was doing it, Audrey. The same thing. To you? I wanted to say something sharp, something deserved. But looking at her sitting there in the half-dark with a photo of herself as a 10-year-old in a stained shirt, I just couldn't. I believe you, I said. But knowing doesn't undo it, Mom. What matters is what you do now. She nodded, didn't promise anything grand, didn't overhaul herself in a single sentence. But the next morning, for the first time in 18 years, she asked me, "How was your internship?" It was a start. I drove to Grandma Ruth's on Saturday. The 4Runner handled the county roads like they were paved in silk. Every pothole I used to feel through the bus seat was just a whisper now. She was on the porch. Tea ready, 2 cups. How long? I asked, sitting down. How long did you plan this? She blew on her tea. Since the day I watched your mother hand Paige those keys, and you stood at the edge of the lawn with a paper plate. 2 years? 23 months. But who's counting? I looked at her. 71. Silver hair pinned back, reading glasses hanging on a chain around her neck. A woman who'd sold houses for 30 years and knew how to wait out any closing. Why didn't you say something to Mom then? At Paige's party? Because saying something doesn't change your mother. She'd have turned it into a fight, played the victim, and nothing would have moved. Showing does. Actions on paper, Audrey. That's what changes things. She set her cup down. I sold the rental on Birch Street, the little duplex I kept from my agency days. I knew that property. She'd rented it out for 15 years, steady income, her safety net. 32,000. The car was 28. The rest covers registration, insurance, and the first oil change. Grandma, that was it was mine to do what I wanted with. And I wanted my granddaughter to start her life knowing she was worth more than a bus pass. Her eyes held mine, steady, clear. I waited until you were 18, so the title would be in your name, not Diane's, not Keith's. Yours. No one can take it. I remembered her saying those words weeks ago on this same porch. Now they made sense. I'm paying my own insurance after the 6 months, I said. She smiled. I know, that's why I picked you. 2 months later, our family wasn't fixed. But it was different. The way a bone is different after it breaks and sets again. Stronger in the fracture, sore when it rains. Mom started therapy in October, not because she wanted to, because Dad said quietly but clearly that he thought it would help, and because Grandma Ruth, during a Sunday visit, said, "Diane, I pushed Carol and you apart without meaning to. Don't do the same with your girls. Mom argued for about 10 minutes, then she made the appointment. She's been going every other Tuesday. I don't ask what they talk about. Dad became a different man in small ways. He started texting me. Short, awkward messages. Hope work is good. Oil change at 5,000 miles, don't forget. He came to Millstone once and ordered a latte he obviously didn't want. Just to sit at the counter and watch me work. He left a $5 tip on a $4 drink and didn't say a word about it. Paige surprised everyone. 2 weeks after my birthday, she started riding the Route 7 bus to school on Tuesdays and Thursdays. No one asked her to. When Mom questioned it, Paige shrugged. I want to see what it's like. She lasted the whole semester. She told me the 5:45 crowd was intense, and that the man in the hard hat, the one who'd nodded at me on my first morning, was named Gerald, and he worked at the water treatment plant. I finished my internship at Wallace & Pratt. Ms. Garner, the woman who'd hired me despite my bus-related lateness, wrote me a recommendation letter. I kept it in the glove box of the Forerunner. The day I drove to campus for freshman orientation, Grandma Ruth called. First day? First day. Drive safe, and don't let anyone tell you you don't deserve to be there. There's a stretch of highway between Ridgemont and Westfield, where the road opens up and the cornfields run flat to the horizon on both sides. I drive it every morning now. Windows cracked, radio low, coffee in the cup holder, Millstone blend because Mr. Delaney sends me home with a bag every week and refuses to let me pay. This is the part where most stories wrap things up with a lesson, right? Some neat little sentence you can embroider on a pillow and hang in a hallway. I don't have one of those. What I have is this. I don't hate my parents. I hate the feeling of being invisible in a room full of people who share your last name. I hate the math that says one daughter gets a car and the other gets a bus pass, and both of those decisions are supposed to be love. I hate that my father knew, and my mother justified, and my sister never had to think about it. But I also have this, a grandmother who never once told me I was strong enough to handle it. Because that's what people say when they've decided you don't deserve better. Grandma Ruth never said that. She just waited and planned, and then, on the exact right day, in the exact right way, she showed up. I still have the bus pass. It's in the top drawer of my desk at the dorm next to a pen and a notepad. I don't keep it out of spite. I keep it because it reminds me of who I was at 5:45 in the morning in the dark, waiting for a bus that came every 30 minutes, and a future that wasn't coming at all until I built it myself. The car didn't change me, but it told me something I needed to hear. Someone believed I was worth it before I believed it myself. I talk to my parents every other week now. Phone calls, usually Sunday evenings. Dad asks about my classes. Mom asks about my meals, which is her version of asking about my life without knowing how to ask about my life. It's awkward. It's real. It's better than it was. I have one rule. If Mom starts comparing, if she minimizes, if she says, "You've always been the strong one," like that explains anything, I say, "I love you, but I'm going to hang up now." And I do. No drama, no argument, just the click. She tested it once. 3 weeks into the semester, I called on a Sunday and she said, "Paige is struggling with calculus. I wish you'd been more patient with her when you lived at home. You were always so independent. You didn't. I love you, Mom. I'm going to hang up now." Click. She called back 4 minutes later. "I'm sorry. That wasn't what I meant." "I know, but it's what you said. Let's try again next Sunday." She did, and that call was better. Paige texts me almost every day now. Memes mostly, but sometimes real questions. How do you track expenses? Or, is it weird that I want to get a job? She's 16 and she's waking up. I'm not going to rush it, but I'm not going to pretend the Honda parked in our driveway didn't teach her that things come free, because it did. And unlearning that takes time. And Grandma Ruth. Every Sunday, I drive the Forerunner to her house. We sit on the porch. We drink tea. We don't always talk. Sometimes we just watch the light change through the maple tree and let the silence be full instead of empty. It's the best hour of my week, every week. Last Thursday, I parked the Forerunner in the student lot at Westfield and sat there for a minute before getting out. The sun was hitting the windshield at that angle that turns everything gold. I could see the campus quad through the trees, students walking, someone throwing a frisbee, a professor carrying a stack of books that was taller than her briefcase. I turned the engine off. The keys hung in the ignition. Toyota fob, 2 metal keys on a plain ring, and a tag tied with twine that I've never removed. Grandma's handwriting. You were always worth it. Someone asked me last week, a friend in my accounting cohort. So your grandma bought you a car? She basically saved you? I thought about that. No, I said. She didn't save me. She told me I'd already saved myself. Because here's the thing, the bus pass, the 545 mornings, the cracked phone and the used textbook, and the shifts at Millstone, and the $3,200 I earned one latte at a time, that was me. All of it. I showed up every single day to a life that told me I wasn't worth showing up for, and I showed up anyway. The forerunner isn't the point of this story. The forerunner is the receipt, the proof that someone was watching, that someone counted every bus ride, and every missed birthday, and every time my mother said she's fine when I wasn't, and decided that enough was enough. I grabbed my backpack, locked the door. The alarm chirped once, that confident little beep that still makes me smile every time. And I thought about what I'd say if I could go back to that girl standing at the Route 7 stop in the dark at 5:45 on a September morning. I'd say, keep going. Someone sees you, and she's already making the call. If you grew up as the kid who got the bus pass, or the hand-me-down, or the smaller room, or the quiet birthday while your sibling got the parade, I want to tell you something that took me 18 years to learn. Being strong doesn't mean you don't deserve softness. Being low maintenance doesn't mean you should be maintained less. And the fact that you survived it, that you got up every morning and went to school and smiled at the dinner table and said thank you for things that hurt, doesn't mean those things should have happened. You weren't hard to love. You were easy to overlook. And that's not the same thing. I'm Audrey Forsyth. I'm 18. I pour lattes at 5:30 in the morning. I study accounting. And I drive a blue Toyota 4Runner that my grandmother bought me because she refused to let me start my adult life believing I was worth less than my sister. I'm not going to pretend my family is perfect now. We're not. My mom is in therapy. My dad is learning to speak up. My sister is learning to think. And I'm learning that forgiving someone doesn't mean forgetting what they did. It means deciding that what they did doesn't get to run the rest of your life. And if you have a grandmother or an uncle or a neighbor or a teacher or anyone who sees you when no one else does, call them. Today, don't wait for your birthday. That bus pass is still in my desk drawer. And the 4Runner's still in the parking lot. Both of them are part of who I am. But only one of them was a choice someone made because they loved me. And I drive it every single day. That's my story. And I know I'm not the only one. If you grew up as the kid who got less money, less attention, less of everything, while your sibling got the world on a silver plate,